right, everybody, welcome. Welcome to our expert panel here today. I am absolutely thrilled to bring this to you guys. We've got some wonderful volunteers with us, and the title of today's panel is Thriving in a Professionals Market. Before I introduce our panelists, if you've heard me speak over like the last 10, 12 months, you've probably heard me say 2023 is a professionals market. And that has definitely been true. We've definitely seen it. We've seen the folks that are working hard and doing the right things thrive in today's market. And we've seen some folks who maybe are waiting for 2021 to come back or waiting for something to happen, kind of sitting on the sidelines a little bit. So hopefully today's content will help reinvigorate some of you who need a little boost. Hopefully for those of you who are already working hard, it'll give you a few more ideas on ways to run your business. And without further ado, I want to introduce our panelists. I'm going to go through all four of them and introduce them. And then the first thing I'm going to do is have them talk a little bit about their backgrounds and their careers in real estate. So just going in the order on which are on my screen, we were happy to have with us Rose Nepp from our Hershey office. Thank you, Rose, for volunteering.
My pleasure.
Yep, they have Cynthia Foray from the Hanover office. Thanks, Cynthia. Andy Espenshade from the Centerville office here in Lancaster.
Hello.
And coming in on his phone because he had a computer issue, we got Will Ferguson from our Annapolis office. Thanks for joining us, Will.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's go right back through that order. Rose, why don't you just give the audience a little bit of your background in real estate, kind of how long you've been doing it, what you focus on, and then we'll go right through that same order of Rose, Cynthia, Andy, and Will.
Okay. I've been in the business for 35 years now. It was 35, well, actually be 35 years next month. Mostly, honestly, throughout this whole time, I have built my business building personal relationships, just personal relationships and staying in touch with people, building friendships and making a lot of lists.
Yep. Managing from a list. Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit in a few minutes when we get to daily activities. So thanks, Rose. Rose was a little hesitant to participate. She says, well, I'm kind of old school. I don't do a whole lot of like fangled stuff. I'm like, that's okay. Everybody can learn. And some of that old school work ethic, I think, is something we can all take advantage of. Cynthia, why don't you give us a little bit of your background?
Hi there. So a little bit about me is I grew up in Maryland, but I lived in Hanover since 1990 when I got married. We live on a beef cattle farm. I have 4 kids. But my favorite name of all time, even that over real estate agent, Anna. I have 2 beautiful grandbabies. As far as real estate, I got my license the end of 17. And I loved interacting with Rose yesterday. Old school or not, she has so much to offer. That what she's shared as important to her, I relate to as well. And that's focusing on relationships, my client's experience, the connections that I have with people. I just love that.
All right. Thank you, Cynthia. Let's move on to Andy. Andy, tell us a little bit about your background. A lot of you've certainly been around for a long time, been part of the home sale fabric for a long time. And tell us a little bit about how you got started, how long you've been doing this.
I entered the business 35 years ago. I'm pretty close to Rose. I'm going to be 35 years in end of August.
Yeah.
So, it's been a little while. I actually started my team in like 1997, and that was actually not. I was planning on doing it, but it was kind of thrust on me when a local small company closed down, and my assistant at that time had a boyfriend that worked at that company, and he brought like 4 agents over with him. And they needed a place to go. So I said, come on. So I really didn't know what to do with it, but I said, let's see what we can figure out. My main thing in business is your sphere of influence, touching them. That's the most important thing you do, and touch them regularly. You talk to them as regular as you can. I have a mailer. I'm still old school. They get a mailer every month, whether it's a card or whatever. I was saying yesterday in a meeting that I had 2 or 3 people in the last month that, oh boy, I love those cards. that recipe on there is really good because I put one on the back of it. Although I'll put listings on the front, I'll put a recipe on the back and people keep them. It gives it shelf life. So my main thing is just that's just part of touch of my spirit and they remember me. And I do 97% of my business by my sphere. I lean on my team a good bit because I'm getting a little older and I like to not work quite as hard. So I'm helping them be successful. So I hand off business to them. And it's actually my team right now is the best I've had in since I've had a team. I mean, they're good agents and they do things the way that we discuss. And that's a big thing when you have a team. See, the interaction with yourself and your team is so important. So, that's just the basics about me.
Thanks, Andy. And I appreciate, I had never heard that story about how you got started with a team. That's the first time I've heard that. That's kind of cool.
Hammond Gravel's office closed down and I took on like 5 agents from his office then. They're all gone and not even in the business anymore, but
But it got you into the
learning
team stuff.
experience to, okay, what do you do with a team?
Yeah, fantastic. And then Will Ferguson, who's the newest home sale member here from our Annapolis office. Will, why don't you tell the guys a little bit about yourself and especially kind of what your focus is, because you're a little different maybe than some of the others on the panel.
Absolutely. So first of all, thanks for having me. This is my 3rd career. I've worked in the trucking industry and the fitness business. And about 16 years ago, my mentor said to me, you should do what I do. And he was a commercial realtor business broker. So I now, with home sales, have the Ferguson Group, which consists of Caroline, Sean, Felena, and Curtis. And we do about a 70-30 split, about 70% commercial, 30% residential. We focus on office, medical, flex industrial, small retail, and we do a lot of leasing and sales in that space.
Thank you. Thank you. So a little different focus there. So I'm going to start with, people think about professionalism in a whole different ways. Obviously, none of you guys would have been chosen to be on this panel had you not had a professional image, had a good presentation style, been respected by your peers. So let's start with, okay, we're going to assume that kind of stuff. Like you show up and you look great and you pull yourself together. And you show up on time and all those things that we just kind of check the boxes on professionalism. I'm going to dive a little deeper into that and talk more about techniques and things that you use to keep yourself on focus and on purpose instead of on accident. So let's start with some daily routine stuff. I know, Will, in our prep call yesterday, you talked about your morning routine. And you and Cynthia both have a morning routine. So Will, why don't you start with tell us a little bit about your morning routine and how you get started every day and what it means for you business-wise in getting started that way.
Yeah, thank you for that. So I get started about 5:30-ish in the morning. I start with some reading, some prayer, primarily a gratitude prayer, and then a prayer for others that, may be struggling with some things. I do some basic stretching, like about a 30-minute program, and then I get right to work. I get my workouts done in the evening, so that's where I really kind of release, all the energy about 3 times a week. But that's my morning program, and I think what that does for me is it allows me to kind of take the ups and downs that happen not only on a daily basis, but sometimes on a weekly basis of being in the marketplace and having a successful day. Like yesterday, I got a guy that called me from the website. He wants to meet this afternoon. They're ready to do business. And then the same day, I had a call where the person says, my listing's not moving fast enough. I want to cancel my listings. So you have to be able to flow with those different energies. And it makes me take accountability without taking responsibility for everything that takes place.
That's great. Great stuff. And Cynthia, you talked about a morning routine as well. Talk a little bit about how you get your day started and what it means for your energy level and things along those lines.
Sure. So, I start similar to what Will said is, it's early, it just works. Get up at 5. I usually meet friends for fitness of some sort, strength training or running, walking. And it's funny, spending that energy in the beginning sets my day. It really does. Some of it's mindset, some of it's learning perseverance, even when it's not comfortable. You do it anyway. The act of showing up that sets a pattern, the structure, the bless, not to shame, when there's variables that have to happen with life. But it's huge for mindset and a reminder that small choices really do add up to
Yeah,
success.
that's great. That's that Darren Hardy compound effect that if many of you have heard me talk about before. We're all self-made by the choices we make and the activities we do and the way we respond to things that happen to us, but only the successful ones claim it, right? So we're all self-made by our actions. Rose, you had a little different daily routine because you shared with us that you are not a morning person.
Please don't
But
call me at 5:30 a.m.
but you had a very regular routine that you follow and it keeps you on path. And why don't you share a little bit about that? Because I think sometimes, when people talk about the daily routine, the morning routine and the 5:30 wake ups, there are certain people who just immediately like tune out because they're like, there's no way that's me. So Rose, why don't you share some of the stuff that you do to stay on task and stay focused? Because I thought it was a very different perspective than those of us that are more of like get up in the morning and get our day started.
Sure. I am very much a night person and not at all a morning person. The thing that keeps me going in the morning is coffee. But at night, and I'm rarely in bed before 1 a.m. and some more often than not, it's even 2 a.m. But at night, before I'm ready to shut down my computer, the one thing I do every night is I will make my list for the next day. And it's just like on a tablet. And I'm really specific about that list, about what I'm going to accomplish tomorrow. And whether if it's writing notes, I specifically write the names of the people I'm going to write notes to. Making calls, I specifically write down their names and their numbers so that there it is on my pad. And that kind of like sets the tone for shutting down my computer. Then my next thing is settling down, reading, just sitting quietly for a while, being thankful, just thoughts of thankfulness and gratitude. And then reading. I will start with the Bible, and then I will do a little bit of whatever. Like one of my favorite books, and real estate related, was the Slight Edge.
Mhm.
So I will do a little bit of reading and something like that, and then if I'm still awake, then I'll probably I will turn to just something like a suspense mystery or something like that. But so when I do get up later in the morning, I'm not usually up before 8. But I'm usually up by 8, and then coffee, and then I start on that list. But
Start
it's
that list,
certainly
right.
later in the morning than the rest of you
Well,
guys.
one of the things you talked about, I love the you're using that time in the night, not just to list out who you're going to call, but also the purpose of the call and even the telephone number, so that
Just
that
makes it easier the next day, and it just and then the next day when I start my day, I love scratching things off the list.
yeah.
And I try to put the things in order of the things that I least enjoy, and I try to get those out of the way first. So
Eat that frog, right? Like that's that worst thing that you have to do. You do it first so that it's out of the way, and then the rest of your day is a positive from there forward. That's great.
right.
And you're
And
doing that prep work. We talk a lot about prep work, right? So the process of getting ready is, the analogy is, I think it takes like 80% of the fuel to go to the moon is to break the Earth's gravity, and work's kind of that way. Getting ready and getting started is kind of like looking up the phone numbers, deciding who you're going to talk to, all that prep time. So you're starting your day with all that prep already done. So
right.
that's a great habit you have that you've formed.
Thanks.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about communication. So I've heard some horror stories from some of our listing agents about buyer's agents submitting offers, they email them, they never let you know that they're sending it. There's no communication, no follow-up. So I know, Andy, you do a lot on the listing side, and more of your team is on the buy side. Why don't you talk about what communication you feel like is appropriate in the offer process, and then how you've seen buyer agents present their contracts in ways to you that makes them more appealing as far as presenting them to the seller.
This market in particular is so crazy that I mean, getting 10, 15 offers and then, oh, I got to put all these together to present, at 6 o'clock. And then to be able to present them that, you're doing your customer service to go over everything with them. But then, and then helping, the pros and cons of what to choose, but then getting back to the agents who either won or did not win the offer. That is, to me, sometimes the toughest thing, because, I know so many agents around here and I like a lot of them. And it's just kind of, I don't like to be the bearer of bad news, but it's whatever. But I have found in situations like that, there's a lot of agents, you don't even hear from them. It's just, you'll send them a message saying, look, your offer was not accepted. You never hear a word, they're gone. So that separates them for me. The good agents will interact with you, what could I have done to do it better? Well, maybe next time, you keep that communication open, because, a good rapport with your other fellow agents is very important.
Right. And, what could I have done what can you learn from the experience? So that's a professional's mindset, right? So what can I have done to make the offer more compelling? Not only that makes them also stand out, I'm assuming, Andy, in your mind, if something were to happen now with that offer, you're more likely to remember that agent to go back to and see if their buyer's still in the market than somebody else who never followed up, right? I mean,
Right.
So that's staying top of mind right now. Or maybe the next listing comes along and you're reaching out to them right away. So there's a lot of positives in the way you communicate. Rose, you had a couple of comments around this yesterday too, I think, if I recall. Any thoughts to add on to Andy's?
Yes, when you're submitting an offer to a listing agent, I always, one, if there are only a couple of competing offers, I will still ask if I can personally present, because I do think it has given me and my buyers an edge. But when there are 10 plus offers, that's just not a feasible thing. But calling that listing agent and saying, hey, I just sent you an offer, tell you a little bit about my buyers. They love this property. They're very well qualified. And, if this isn't as competitive as some of the other offers, but you like a lot of other things about this offer, I'm going to be available. My buyers are going to be available on standby. Please give us a chance to see if we can make an even better offer that your seller would like. And then creating relationships with agents within other companies so that they want to do business with you.
Right. That's 100% part of it, right? You want to be, you don't want to be the agent that the listing agent is discouraging their person from taking the offer because it's the best offer, maybe financially, but they know dealing with you is only a 60% chance of getting to the closing table because you're difficult. You want to make sure that you have a great working relationship with the community.
Right.
Cynthia, Will, any additional thoughts on communication around the offer, especially in today's world? How to make yourself stand out a little bit?
Well, I think in my case, I spend most of my time on the commercial side, so
Right.
our listing length of time is longer. But I think fundamentally it's about setting the expectations. Caroline does a great job in with the first touch of people coming in. But when it comes to the customers, either myself or her or together, we'll provide a monthly update. We'll provide an immediate update if there's some activity with a qualified buyer or tenant. But I think it's really about setting the expectations and not being afraid to be redundant with that. Like, this is what we talked about in the beginning.
Yeah.
I'm actually, doing what I told you I was going to do, because people get nervous, they want to, I want to talk to you every other day now, or I want you to send me an update even when nothing's happening. And you have to let people know that that doesn't work.
Right.
I
So
agree
that's
with that.
that's an important part. We talked about that a little bit. Just setting that expectation of how you work right up front. And Andy, you got some thoughts on that, I think.
Just, I always try to reiterate, sometimes I get very repetitive, but then when you get into a situation, you say, now, you remember when we discussed this, that you're awakening their memory. Oh, yeah, because that kind of helps when you get in difficult situations.
It does.
Cynthia, anything else on communication or working with co-brokes?
I like what I'm hearing. Just, the agents are relationships too. When we talk about being relationship focused, it's not just our clients, it's our colleagues, and being respectful. And that's huge. We all get excited about certain names that pass the desk for that reason. They've always been communicative, responsible in getting back to us. We all know what it's like to miss something. And feel terrible when it happens, but for the most part, we're quick to say, I'm sorry I missed that. Just that thoughtfulness and respect to each other, it's huge. And it sets the tone for the transaction. It really does.
Absolutely. So we talked a little bit about morning routines or evening routines or kind of those reinvigorated habits. What other types of things do you guys do to set your daily schedule? What's sync to sync? What do you have to get done? Do you have a particular process on how you set your schedule? And then I'll share some pieces from another agent in our company that was shared with me. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'd like to share. So,
Sure.
typically I set myself up to work a 7 to 7 shift Monday through Friday. I do Saturdays by appointments, and I try to lay out my calendar 2 weeks out, because I know that, I'm looking at my business as a business, and I know the first part of any business is, where is the new business coming from? So I need to provide time to generate that, whether it's networking with CPAs, with the chambers, but then I also need to spend time with my current engagements, making sure that they've gotten their updates, making sure there's nothing else I could do to improve their listings. And then the third piece is really spending time with myself and with the team to figure out, hey, what is it that we need to do? What's broke? What can we adjust? Is there something small or is there something big? And if I focus on those three things, every day and every week, it kind of creates my own expectation. Well, I don't have a suspect that I can turn into a prospect, that I can turn into a client. Well, did I miss something today? And it reminds me that I need to stay on target.
I do something kind of maybe silly, or I love to bake. And when things are slower and I have time in my day that I know I've got a few hours, I have done this for years too, and and it's just at various times, but I'll just get in the kitchen and I'll bake a ton of cookies, and then I'll just put little boxes together, and I'll do drop-bys. I'll do drop-bys to people that I haven't seen face to face in years. I'll just drop by with some cookies, say, hey, I've been thinking about you guys and I had some free time, so I just thought I'd share some cookies with you. People love that kind of thing. They just, love the little bit of extra attention. Those are
any anecdotes on where that's led to a conversation that then led to business? Because I would think it's probably all the time, right? Like
it does. It's amazing, and it's amazing with Passcode. The other thing I've done for years is on the buyer side, representing buyers. When the settlement is at our office, I always bake chocolate chip cookies for the settlement, and it's just create a little this is a house buying party. Let's have fun. Let's be happy. So as years go by, when they're selling and then buying something else, just recently this happened. You're going to bake cookies for the settlement, aren't you, Brooks?
Right.
So, I mean, it's
You
little
set the
things like
expectation.
that,
Yeah.
I mean, it's silly, but if you're not a baker, there's other things that you could do to just maybe make them feel a little special in little ways.
So Cynthia, what about you? Anything that you is sanctified in your daily routine that you absolutely do every day that you make sure you have time blocked?
Absolutely do every day with some exceptions. I have to throw that in there, but I love handwritten notes. I love getting them. I love giving them. That's almost every day. I try to make that happen every day. Touching clients that way through notes. This isn't daily, but something I really try to set aside is my Mondays to touch everybody in the transaction, whether they need it or not, because even if they don't need it, they still do. It might be an update to say, hey, I don't have an update, but hope packing's going well, or something that they know that they still have my attention the whole way through, even if they're not looking at a piece to the transaction that's urgent. That's super important. So that's a Monday routine, trying to do that the daily, or besides the exercise, prayer, gratitudes, affirmation are the notes. And you mentioned eating the frog. The frog for me are the phone calls. That's so hard. That's my frog. And I just want to put it to the end of the day and then go, I'll eat the frog tomorrow. But yeah, a little bit of everything there in my answer.
Great. Andy, what about you? Anything that is daily or something you do weekly on the same day, something that's very
I
routine
journal
oriented?
every day, and that really, to me, it's affirmations, prayer, gratitude, everything. And I'll start my journal, whatever pops to my head first, I write at the top of the page, and then I elaborate on that through the page of when I'm doing my journaling, and just whatever comes to me comes out. I've always found that very inspirational because things come out that you didn't even expect. So I've regularly done that for quite a while. It's funny. I've been a big fan of dialogues. I did new construction for about the first 7 years that I was in business. And that's a whole different kind of set of dialogues when you get someone coming into a sales center and they call it the elevator speech. How do you get that person to slow down and want to talk to you? But I really liked dialogue. So I've always been a real fan of trying to find new things to how you say things. And 90% of it, I came from a background of a machine shop before I got in real estate 40 years ago. And I would just drink some beer and punch you in the face. So I came a long way of learning how to deal with people. And that's the most important thing. You want to build this between you and the people, and how you say it is very, very important. And a lot of times scripts, if you do them right, they don't sound like scripts. And I've just always been a really big fan of them. So I'm always looking for new things to say.
Yeah, one of the things I find very interesting about scripting is it's not so much about making sure you get every word exactly where it's supposed to be. It's like, but if you practice that dialogue or that script, and it becomes more and more like a second nature of a way to answer an objection or answer a question, then that in and of itself makes you more comfortable with that interaction and makes you feel more like the expert, makes you feel more like the professional, builds confidence. But you got to do it also in a way that doesn't come off as, the robot, like, oh, I read this in the How to Sell Real Estate book yesterday, and now I'm out like trying to deliver it, right? So it's that balancing act between authenticity as well as preparation and being ready.
Mhm.
So I think that's great stuff, and certainly that new construction background where a builder has a set of dialogues, and make sure you talk about the upgrades to the kitchen cabinets because that's where all the margin is. That kind of is important when you're representing that particular client.
Well, and if it's something that's canned, you've got to add your twist to it, because if it's canned, it sounds canned. So how do you
Absolutely.
present it your way that comes from here, from you? And that's the strongest part of it, working with any scripts.
Yeah, we were talking about a little bit before we let everybody in the audience. I was actually talking about some conversations I'd had with some agents about video and looking at certain people who do video really well. And this agent was lamenting, like, I need to get more focused on that. I need I need to think about that. And Rose has said it several times in our prep. What is it, Rose?
Just do it.
Just do it, right? So when you do the thing, you get the power. And so everybody gets better with practice. So whether it's dialoguing, whether it's doing video, etc., you just do it, and you will get better if you continue to do it and make it a part of your habit pattern.
I
So
have
Andy, your
something that's,
journaling, but like triggered another thought for me. So talk a little bit about how you stay inspired and motivated and focused in a business that obviously, as Will shared, sometimes there's ups, and we might have just lost Will, I'm not sure. Sometimes there's ups and sometimes there's downs. Sometimes you get kicked in the teeth, like how do you keep yourself on that level keel so that you stay the professional and you don't go out on the ledge with your client? Because sometimes the client gets out on the ledge, and the worst thing we can do is follow them out there, right? So what are some of the things you guys do to keep your mind clear and healthy?
with a client that's close to out on the ledge, I think one thing, you kind of have to try to put your feet in his shoes,
Right.
and see where he's coming from. That helps. And then grace, give him grace, kill him with kindness. It's the I mean, they will respond. You just, again, you just do it. You put your mindset in that I'm going to get this client through. I'm going to get him over this hump, whatever this is. And, take the attitude, we're going to work this out together. Give them grace, give them kindness. They will respond, and you will work at it. I mean, you do get them over. One thing I have that's framed here on my desk, and also at my house, and it was another one of those, just do it, the Nike phrase, just do it. But this says, no matter how slow you go, you are still lapping everybody on the couch.
100%.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, what about you? What do you do to keep, you talked about, some of the things in your daily routine. I'm sure some of that helps keep your mind clear and focused. Any other thoughts on things to do to in this up and down market to keep yourself stable?
Well, I think it's okay to say no, and it's okay to task switch from just focusing on business to focusing on something, personal. I like to cook, and I'm probably not a good baker like Rose, but I love to cook. And so just switching gears for a minute and like using the other side of your brain kind of refreshes me. I also love music. So whether it's playing or performing or anything like that, I'm all about that. So it's anytime you can switch gears and use a different part of kind of your brain, I think it helps.
So Andy, you talked a little bit about journaling. Anything else to add to that as far as like keeping yourself motivated, clear, inspired?
I found sometimes I'd kind of piggyback on what Will just said. Sometimes if things are just coming down on you and stuff, sometimes just to step back a little bit, back a little bit and do whatever, kind of maybe something comes to you after you do that. It's like a decompression. But I found that's very helpful, because sometimes we all know this business, you can get totally overwhelmed.
Yeah. Cynthia, anything to add there?
Same, what Rose said, just validate their feelings, listening, trying to be intentional so that I'm empathetic and not just taking on a heaviness that they have, but walking alongside and being redundant, reminding them, when we first met, we talked about it being bumpy. This is one of those places. This is bumpy. It's not going to feel good. I can't change that. But we're still heading to the finish line, and we're going to get there together. Just that validate, and we're still moving forward. We're going to do this. And the white space of stepping back. I call it white space of being intentional to create a little space between me and whatever feels hard. Sometimes it's as basic as going to the Keurig here in the office and just making a cup of decaf after I've had like 5 regular, cups. It feels like a treat to me, and it just creates, you know what, you have time to make a cup of coffee and drink it slow and walk down the stairs and say hi to Rachel or something, just to step back and reset. Even in an office setting, you get to do that, and we get to make it happen, and it's super helpful.
We had a little conversation yesterday about that. It just jumped out at me what you said as an office setting. I have always functioned best in an office. Because to me, it's like a fixed thing I do. A lot of people who can work from home, but I'm more office oriented. And a lot of times when I take a break, I'll go walk through the office and, talk to some of the staff and stuff, or run into one of the agents and talk with them. I mean, I find that interaction is really kind of energizing. So that's always worked well for me.
We're going to make Andy the facilitator. I was going to use this segue as well to talk about where do you work from and where do you work from best. So Andy, great segue. And we in our prep call yesterday we did talk about being in the office environment, and I joked that agents will spend thousands of dollars to go to a conference to learn from other agents, and they won't walk into the office that's provided by Homecell and interact with each other. So you get into your office and experience the expertise of the people around you. When it's right, because I know some of you guys also have some other places you work from. So will you share a little bit about that? Because you talked about it, I thought, very eloquently yesterday about what works for you and when.
Yeah, I like a place with no interruptions, but so I love the office, but the office that I choose is a satellite office. So there's generally nobody here. And I have all the, the resources that I need, but I have peace. So I can think, I can have meetings, I can do all those things. And even if I work in the morning, for example, when I start my day home, it's a separate space in the house, completely reserved for my activity. And that works well for me. Now, when I do go into the office and for example, the sales meetings, I love it. I make a commitment to be there. I make time to be there afterwards most of the time. And I really want to engage, with my colleagues, because I think there's a lot of benefits there.
That's great. Rose, you were working from home yesterday. We had you come into the office today because of making sure you had a wired internet connection, because you were coming in and out a little bit, and it's working great today. But talk a little bit about what you like about each space and what you find rewarding from each part of it.
Yeah, I love having an office to come to, and I love when agents are here, and there's interaction. I mean, sometimes when you're crazy busy, I find it better to work at home just because I don't have the distractions. I don't have kids at home anymore. My husband is busy doing his thing, so I can be totally focused at home, and sometimes I can get more done at home. But I do like a combination of both. I like coming in here and talking to other agents and just finding out what's going on in their lives and going on in their business and things like that. And, just trading off. It's invigorating.
And Cynthia, you shared, I think, that you prefer to work from the office. Talk about that a little bit.
I do, that's correct. I'm probably in 80 to 90% of the time. It narrows my choices, I don't have to spend energy reminding myself to stay at my desk and focus on this. I'm what I have to do at home. I could be distracted. So it's just a narrowing of choices. I'm here to work and make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
What's consistent 100% in all of your answers is that you're making an on-purpose choice. You're choosing to be in an environment because of what that environment provides for you, whether it's interaction or solitude for focus. But it's not just a random, I'm hanging out at the kitchen counter and I might do a little work here for a few minutes, and I might, watch a little bit of CNN, and then I might watch a little ESPN, and then I might do a little more work. You're making a purposeful, on-purpose choice about the way you're setting up your day for success. And I think that's what we want to focus on is that professionalism around being on purpose and not by accident.
Interesting thing I did when I got into business. I mean, I knew nothing about interacting or anything when I got into business. I was about as green as you could get. And back then there were no teams, so I didn't have any team people to even interact with. But I was at the office every day, and basically what I did is I pinpointed the guys that were doing all the business, and I attached myself to them. And they got tired of me asking them questions, but you know what? I learned a lot of things from these people, and that is probably one of the things that helped propel me into what I've become.
So that's a great comment, Andy. You know, there's an old saying that the average person learns from their own mistakes. The below average person makes the same mistakes over and over again, but the truly exceptional person learns from the mistakes of others. So you're taking advantage of that experience around you is really a smart thing to do. So talk a little bit about, we got about 15 minutes left here maybe. Talk a little bit about what you do to stay up to date on what's going on in as both this market conditions, what's going on in the industry, any things that you, whether it's read, newsletters you take in, activities that you do to stay up to date on what's going on in the market. And Rose, if you want to start, I'm just going around the horn again.
Sure. Yeah, certainly reading, staying up with the news. Our GHAR, mailings and things like that. And talking to other agents, just talking to other agents in different offices and finding out what's happening with them, what, they're sharing their experiences, me sharing mine with them. You learn an awful lot that way too, and not just the agents, our mortgage people, our title people. So it's a combination. It's a combination of a lot of things.
I mean, that's a great comment, Rose. Walk down the hall and talk to your home sale mortgage or home sale settlement person, and hear what weird thing they've dealt with that week, or what have they seen 3 times in the last month that was just off the wall. Because for every one transactions you're touching as an agent, they're touching 5 or 10 probably because of the way it works. Oh, that was weird.
Yeah.
So that's a great comment to take advantage of that in-house services that we have with mortgage title insurance, and what's going on even beyond the walls of real estate. That's a great comment. Thank you. Anything else?
I found interacting with the in-house services has always been very helpful. Title, I mean, literally just step across the hall if you have a question about anything that in relation to that. It's just good to have that there, and also another means of learning things.
Yeah, and if you ever have a chance to swing by and talk to one of the guys from the legal team or from with Gary Schlechtich, and because they're touching every crazy transaction that comes to the company where something didn't go like exactly as it was supposed to. So they've got a lot of experience and expertise to share, and just really neat opportunity. Cynthia, what about you? Anything you do to stay abreast of what's going on?
Yeah, we're offered so much. I mean, RAYAC has their updates. I enjoy those. Sean is great with her videos to address questions. Our office meetings have great content, value. Of course, the team's there with Rachel and title and mortgage to give us updates, handouts, because I'm a reader and like the visual. So they're just so good with that, Mary. There's just so much content there of value. And of course, our company has their weekly as well. And that's huge to keep in touch with what's going on and changes that are made.
Great stuff. Well, what about you? Anything that you look to on a regular basis?
Well, I start globally. I like to read magazines. So I'll read Commercial Symposium, which we subscribe to. I read, The Economist and other, Wall Street Journal, all those type of things. But, the real nugget are the things that actually come from the franchise. Bill's monthly or Monday newsletter, all kinds of stuff in there. And even though some of it doesn't apply to me, it's really about the tone that it sets. It really gives you some information that you can possibly alter your tone to help with your transactions.
Yeah, so if you're not getting it, what Will's talking about is each one of the EVP sends out a Monday newsletter, and it's got it's got some things from home sale. It's got some things that are being reshared from the franchise. It's got, social events that are going on. It's got Sunshine Kids things are going on. Just a really good resource to kind of get that, keeping up with what's going on, inside the company and inside the industry a little bit. I'm a little hurt. Nobody said Rod's quarterly town hall was a way to keep in touch with what's going on in the business. So
We all thought that was a given, Rod.
all right. Thank you, Rose. Thank you. So one that was shared with me, actually, I was talking with Andrew Undham. He talked about Lisa. I don't know how to say her last name. Start Events. She's Bright's chief economist. And she puts out a piece every week about the conditions in the market. And instead of being something that's looking at like a national level, this is getting down to the Bright level. And then there's even like county by county breakdowns in some of her work. And it's just some really, really, really solid, economic analysis that focus really on our industry. So some good stuff to check out as well. I think we're getting to the end of my prepared stuff. Let's look real quick at the chat and see if anybody's got any questions or anything. Yeah, I'm not seeing any questions out there. If anybody does have a question, get it thrown into the chat here. So we talked a little bit about daily routines. I'll share one thing. I asked for his permission to quote him in a previous session. Craig Hartraff talked about that he starts a day with a plan. So he's got his day planned out. And it's not that he's beating himself up if everything doesn't go as it was supposed to, but his idea is if I can be 70% on plan, then that's a winning day. If I get my prospecting session in, if I get, my 2 appointments in, if I get my meeting, like if he's got it all planned out and he's got in it spots to do, to have his appointments in there that are open or not. Another one I'll share with you, strategy is, comes from Rick Smith in York. Rick Doyle used to tell a story about Rick. They're sitting in the kitchen and they're playing cards, which I understand back in the day was a common thing to do after tour, back when we did tour on Wednesday. I think it was on Wednesdays, and they buzz Rick and he picks up the phone and he goes, "Well, would you like to meet at 7 or would you like to meet at 9?" And Rick is just, Rick Doyle is just amazed. Like, Rick, how do you know your schedule? How do you know that your whole schedule to be able to know that you are available then? He's like, well, I don't know my whole schedule, but I know where my holes are. I know where the opportunities to have revenue producing events, which was, or he called them money strokes, which was either a listing appointment or presenting an offer. And so he didn't know where he was going to be at 6 and he didn't know where he was going to be at 8, but he knew he had holes at 5 and at 9. So he was trying to fill all of the holes that he had dedicated in his schedule to have money meetings. So there's so many different ways for you to really think about the business and think about your schedule and to keep yourself motivated and going forward, and so much to learn from those who've gone before us. So professionals market. Certainly people are out there having, honestly, better years than they had last year. Those people are the ones who are working like a professional. They're communicating like professionals. They're taking the next steps. They're taking the extra piece. If there is business to be had, we have to go and demonstrate it and demonstrate our value more today than the last couple of years. But if you do that, I believe you will be successful. For my panelists, any closing thoughts on a professionals market and things that you would recommend to our attendees this afternoon? And again, I'll just start with Rose and go around the horn.
I think more important than anything else is stay in touch with your people. Stay in touch with everyone. It will build you at this point, and for many years now, most, if not all of my business comes from past clients and referrals from past clients. And that's because I've stayed in touch with them, whether it be with personal notes, quick calls, dropping by, a Christmas letter. I started sending a Christmas letter out with pictures, and now it's with our grandkids. But people will comment on that they love to hear from you. So stay in touch with your people. It will come back to you manyfold.
So I'm gonna use this as an opportunity to give a plug for Real Estate Planning Month. Got a few more days left, but I want to share a success story too. Dolly Bailey shared with us yesterday that Linda Warner in her office did 90 real estate reviews for people during the month of June. 60 of those were personal visits where she also dropped off home-baked cookies to Rose's cookie idea. She has generated somebody who needs to do something now, one that needs to do something in 6 months, one in 2 years. And she's also helping somebody who didn't have the courage to call her and talk about it, but who is approaching for a foreclosure situation. And because she reached out, she's now going to be able to help them avoid foreclosure and to go forth with something that won't destroy the near-term future of their financial lives. So that's the power of that constant contact and staying in touch. And if you've been resonant about doing that outreach, use Real Estate Planning Month as an excuse to get in front of people that you haven't otherwise been in front of. And if it's in July, nobody cares. Just do it. Just do it. Cynthia, what about you? What's your closing remarks on professionalism?
Well, circling back to what we started with, the structure of the morning, the structure to bless yourself so you can bless others. It's not about shaming if there's a shift in a day, but the structure, keeping in touch with items of value. People want to know they matter. Everybody just wants to know they matter, and keep finding ways to do that.
Andy, both the question as well as came in from Jeremy McLaughlin here in the Centerville office, said, where do you get your scripts from? And then also any closing comments on professionalism?
It's funny because there's so many places out there you can get scripts now, but they want to charge you an arm and a leg for them. It's crazy. You could find them anywhere. I had books and books of them years ago. Really, I'm just more of a listener to, I'm a member of the tag team here in Lancaster. It's a top agent group of agents from all over the county. And we exchange a lot of things script wise there. Craig, he's probably one of the biggest people. He's a huge believer in scripts. I want to go back to Rose. Rose, what you were saying, touch. People forget you in 2 seconds if you don't stay in touch. And mailings or just a place phone call, and all of us probably when you go out, how many people, when you run into someone on the street or out in an event or whatever, oh, how's real estate? How's business? They always ask that because they know you're in the business.
Yeah.
And I had an agent say one time, he says, I'm very fortunate to be doing referrals because of good people like you. And that's how I do my business. And that is just, you're planting that seed, you're reiterating, okay, this is how I do my business.
And I'm going to ask Jeremy, I'll ask Jen Jones to get any scripts that they have from the career development department as well and get them out to you guys.
I'd love to look at them if they have like a library of them.
Yep, we'll get out what we have and get some resources because I know there's some out there that we have. So that brings us to Mr. Will. You get our final word here as a panelist, and thoughts on anything closing on professionalism and how to be a pro in today's market.
Yeah, well, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And so make sure people get you. Like my core commitments are leadership, effectiveness, and fun. And I try to wrap that into everything that I do. Just be easy to do business with. Let people know that you're always going to do the right thing regardless of whether you win or not. It's about integrity. And be willing to explain the process as many times as they need to hear it. And I think if you approach your contacts and your team and your customers that way, I think you'll produce results.
Yeah, great words of advice, guys. I'll close with one thought, and that's that, you know, what we get to do every day impacts people's lives amazingly. Don't ever take it for granted. What we think about is, oh, just another transaction is somebody's home. It's where they're gonna run their business from. If it's a commercial transaction, it's where they're gonna raise their kids. It's where they're gonna make their memories. So let's be sure we're always treating it that way, and don't ever forget that we have the honor to do this profession. Thank you for your time today, everybody.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right.